northern way, or way leading into the north. And it seems that the native origin is the...
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, this video is really long. It's 28 minutes, 20 seconds. That's literally a 30-minute video. And that's going to be really hard to do in one sit-in. So I'm just making this really clear right now. I'm going to be doing probably a part 1 and a part 2 and a part 3. Because I'm going to be chatting a lot in this video, because this video is literally how did each European country get its name. Should be a really interesting video. Freaking large sample, well, not sample size, but a large gathering of information for me to consume. Yeah, I'm ready. Is this going to be in alphabetical order? Because that would be actually really much more amazing. But without further ado, guys, I'm going to be checking out this video right now. So please do like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Without further ado, let's check out this video.
The other day, I came across this Instagram post about Belarus, and in it, it said that the origin of the country's name literally meant White Russia, which was the name of the area in archaic times. It was also known as Russia Alba, which we can see on this map from 1539. And in fact, a lot of countries' names date back to ancient times and the ways in which the people at the time happened to refer
to themselves, right? Refer to themselves, right? I know that's what he was going to say, but that's what I was going to actually, slam in this video. It's so ironic how pathetic the world is now that we divide ourselves by race, but back then it was divided by your freaking region. That's what the world used to be like, and it was so cool, Like, nobody used to say, I'm black, or white. They used to be like, I'm Italian, I'm Roman. You know what I mean? Type shit. I like that. That was so unique.
I did a video recently on US state names origins, and it did. A lot of countries' names date back to ancient times and the ways in which the people at the time happened to refer to it. I did a video recently on US state names origins, and it did pretty well, so I thought, why not do this for Europe as well. US state origins were very interesting but pretty straightforward. They're mostly either named after native groups, rivers, or European monarchs. But here in Europe, there's a little more diversity in the origins, so let's find out.
Right.
I'm going to do this from west to east, sort of, but there's timestamps in the description if you don't want to sit through all of them and just skip to whichever you're interested in. Conveniently starting with my country, the westernmost of Europe, Portugal. The word Portugal derives from the Roman Celtic name Portus Cale, a city where present-day Vila Nova de Gaia now is, at the mouth of the river Douro. Portus meant port, as in harbor, and the second word, Cale, has a less clear origin. Some say it was in reference to the Kalaeci people of the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula, which would then be named the Galicians. Another theory states that Cale is a derivation of a Celtic word for port, but then the name of the area in Roman times would be Port, which doesn't make much sense. Some French scholars also believe the name may have come from Portus Gallus, meaning the port of the Gauls or Celts. I think the first hypothesis of the port of the Caelesi makes more sense. Moving on to Spain, we need to be aware that in English and some other languages, countries' names are sometimes translated. So for Spain, what we need to be looking at is the native name España. Be ready for me to mispronounce all these country names in the local languages, by the way. From what I could find, España comes from Hispania, the Roman name for the region, which in turn seems to come from the way the Phoenicians and Carthaginians called the peninsula Spania. But the meaning behind these origins is uncertain. Antonio de Nebrija, a scholar of Renaissance times, proposed that the word Hispania evolved from the ancient Iberian word Hispalis, meaning city of the Western world. Jesus Conchilos, another scholar, argued that the root of the term span is the Phoenician word spi, meaning to forge metals, and so Hispania would mean the land where metals are forged. The options are kind of endless, like a possible origin from the Basque word espana, meaning edge or border, because the peninsula is at the western edge of Europe, but, and this is oddly the most possible, it could also be a derivation of the Phoenician meaning land of rabbits, which they would write as Isfania, and actually Roman coins struck in the region during the reign of Emperor Hadrian show a female figure with a rabbit at her feet, and Greek geographer Strabo wrote about Spain, calling it indeed the land of rabbits. A strange origin for a country name, but which might actually be right. Next is a tiny country at the Spanish border, Andorra. Most of the origins of European names are uncertain. There's no official story that was certified and accepted as the certain origin in most cases. And it makes sense. While US states were named like 200 years ago, most of these countries or respective lands were named over 1,000 years ago, mostly at times when records didn't really exist. In Andorra's case, the main theory is that it derives from the name of an Iberian pre-Roman tribe, the Andesines. A Greek philosopher, Polybius, described these people as being inhabitants of the valley where Andorra is today, when writing about the passage of the Carthaginian army through the Pyrenees during the Punic Wars. His name for the locals might come from a local term itself, Andia, in Basque, which means big or giant. Another theory suggests that Andorra may derive from the Arabic Al-Dara, meaning the thickly wooded place. When the Moors conquered the Iberian Peninsula, the valleys of the Pyrenees were covered by large tracts of forest. These regions were not administered by the Moors, but this would have been the way in which they described them. In fact, the Navarro-Aragonese term Andojal also means land covered with bushes, while folk etymology states that the King Charlemagne would have named the region as a reference to the biblical valley of Andor. Going north but still in the west, France, originally used as a way to describe the land of the Frankish Empire. The name France comes from the Latin word Francia, a word still used to describe the modern country in Italian and Spanish, translated to Frankreich in German, and equivalents in Dutch and Swedish, which all mean land or realm of the Franks. The name of the Franks itself is apparently connected to the old French word franc, meaning free or sincere, which in turn came from the medieval Latin francus, meaning as well free in the sense of free of service. A pretty cool fact, since France is usually seen as the home of modern republics, the original land of the free eventually became the land of freedom, one of the ideals of the French Revolution.
Yeah, this is actually really good. This one is the best thus far. Portugal, I'd say, was number 2 in terms of the details making a lot more sense. I think Spain was actually probably number 3 with a rabbit. You know, coin and everything was there to prove that. Right, but yeah, this one's really good.
Then France is Monaco. I had a pretty difficult time finding any information about this, so here's what I found. Back in the 6th century BC, Monaco was a colony of the Phocian Greeks and the Ligurians, the first inhabitants of the region, and they referred to this place as Monoikos, which roughly translates to single house, transmitting the sense of a people which lived apart from others or in a single house. Monoikos is derived from a Greek word which combines the words monos, meaning alone, and oikos, which means house. According to an ancient myth, Hercules would have passed through the area and turned away the previous gods. As a result, a temple was constructed there in his honor, and being the only temple of this area, the existence of this temple, regardless of its mythological justification, might actually justify the choice of the Monoikos single house name, because it was the single temple. Before moving further east, let's go up north to cover all of these western countries. Iceland is right up there, and the name seems pretty self-explanatory. Icelandic tradition says that a Norwegian explorer named Nadod was the first Norseman to reach the island in the 9th century. He named it Snyland, or Snowland, because it was snowing, and eventually the name was adapted from snow to ice. Further down is Ireland. In Irish, the country's name is Eire, and both Ireland and Eire derive from the Old Irish Eiru. Eiru is a goddess in Irish mythology, and her name is supposed to mean something like flowing water. However, she was usually seen as a goddess of the land, and some scholars point to the origin being abundant land instead of flowing water. The Romans called the island Ibernia, a name taken from Greek geographical accounts, during his exploration of northwest Europe in 320 BC. Greek explorer Pytheas called the island Yeren, a Greek rendition of the local Celtic name Iweriu, from which the name first arose. And next to it, the United Kingdom.
But I'm not gonna hold you. The best one thus far is Iceland. That's just boom, spot on. boom, Iceland. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to them, man. Like, it was really good. I imagine they'd say the same about Finland because the Finns land. It's the Finns land. Makes sense, eh?
Kingdom's name is pretty straightforward. It's a United Kingdom of various countries. Although some people argue that the UK was formed in 1707 by the Act of Union between England, Wales, and Scotland, the name United Kingdom wasn't officially adopted until 1801 when Ireland was brought into the Union. Before that, it was called Great Britain, describing the main island of the British Isles. This terminology map is good to accurately understand the differences. Britain comes from the Roman term Britannia, which was the Latin version of the local Britannia, as the native Britons called it. Britannia itself is supposedly of Celtic origin and could mean the painted ones, referring to the paintings the natives did on their bodies. While the Great has two proposed reasons. One is to distinguish it from the similar sounding but much smaller French region of Brittany, and the other is said to be due to the ego of King James I, who wanted to make it clear that he wasn't just the king of old Roman Britain, but the entire island. When it comes to the constituent countries, the name England is derived from the Old English name Englaland, which means land of the Angles, one of the tribes who settled in Great Britain during the early Middle Ages. The name Scotland is derived from the Roman Latin Scotia, the tribe name Scoti, which applied to all the natives, essentially land of the Scots, while England was land of the Angles. But Wales is different. While Cymru is the Welsh word for Wales and means friends, the word Wales is of Germanic origin, and this was a really confusing explanation that I found. It says that this word, by which most people know the country, comes from a term used by the invading Anglo-Saxons towards the Britons, and it meant foreigners or outsiders, despite the Welsh being native to the land. Back to continental Europe, the Benelux. Let's cover all three in a row. The Dutch government put out a statement last year asking for people to stop using the term Holland and simply refer to them as the Netherlands, because Holland only refers to 2 of the country's 12 provinces, and its usage is therefore technically wrong. So why are there these 3 terms? Dutch, Holland, Netherlands. Historically, all of the Benelux was called the Low Countries, due to their land being mostly below the average sea level. This eventually led to the Dukes of Burgundy, who ruled the area in the 15th century, referring to the territories as the lands over here, for some reason which was then translated as Nederlanden in contemporary Dutch documents. From a regional point of view, Nederland was also the area between the Meuse and Lower Rhine rivers in the late Middle Ages. The fact that a lot of people refer to the country as Holland has to do with those 2 provinces I mentioned. Throughout history, Holland became the most economically and politically important county in the Low Countries region, especially at the time the country was formed, and so the nation was also referred to as such. This would be the same as calling England London. The origin of it derived from the Old Dutch term Oldland, meaning woodland. When it comes to the term Dutch, English-speaking people use the word Dutch to describe people from the Netherlands, having to do with the common Germanic descent they share with the Germans, who were also referred to similarly as Deutsch. However, in the Dutch language, a Dutch person is also called a Nederlander, which again, I'm for sure mispronouncing. Belgium got its independence from the Netherlands later on in history, but when they became independent, its modern name came from the Latin word Belgium, used in Julius Caesar's book, The Gallic Wars, to describe the region in the period around 55 BC, which in turn was named after the native tribe of the Belgae, from a native word similar to Belg, which meant people who swell with anger. Luxembourg's history as a nation is also somewhat recent. However, it began with the construction of Luxembourg Castle in the High Middle Ages. In 963, Siegfried I, Count of the Ardennes, traded some land with the local monks in exchange for an ancient, supposedly Roman fort, named this name, which I'm not even gonna try to read, commonly translated as Little Castle. Some people link the origin of the word with Letze, meaning fortification, which may have referred to the remains of that ancient Roman watchtower around the fort of Luxembourg. A town gradually developed, and when becoming a duchy, versions of its name were used for it, then evolving into the modern Luxembourg. Continuing west, Germany. The English word Germany derives from the Latin term Germania, which came into use after Julius Caesar adopted it for the people east of the Rhine River. Essentially, it meant lands where the Germanic people live. The original meaning of Germany is disputed, but it did refer to a number of local tribes. In the native German, the country's name is Deutschland, originally Diotischio land, meaning the German lands, which comes from the Old High German word Diotich, meaning of the people, so it would be lands of the people, maybe. Further south is Switzerland. The English name
makes a lot of sense. Like for the ones like Deutschland and the Iceland, I'd imagine Finland is the same, so I'm going to just include it right now, Finland. It makes a lot of sense because, that's the type of people there, and then, you align it to that, right? But Portugal was a little bit different. Spain was a little bit different as well. But yeah, thus far, this is some good information. I'm not even stopping right now. We're going to go a little bit further.
Switzerland means land of the Switzer, an old term which defined the Swiss people. Eventually, they changed it to precisely Swiss after the French term. The name comes from the Alemannic Schwyzer, which meant an inhabitant of Schwyz, one of the original cantons and former independent states of the region, which first formed the Swiss Confederacy. Apparently, Schwyz comes from the Old High German Schwyz, meaning to burn, referring to the area of the forest that was burned and cleared to build. Although sometimes they use the term Confederation Helvetica from the Gaulish tribe the Helveti, which lived in the Swiss regions before the Roman era. And next to it, or almost within it, is the small principality of Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein is a rare case in modern days, but the fact it remains a principality explains it. The name of the country is that of its ruling dynasty, which in turn derives its name from that of Liechtenstein Castle, which means bright stone, from Licht, an obsolete variant of Licht, which is light, and Stein, which means stone. Moving further south, Italy, or the native Italian, Italia. There are many different hypotheses for the origin. One is that it was named after an ancient southern Italian term, Vitelliu, meaning land of young cattle. Another is that it would be named after a legendary local king, Italus. It seems either one way or the other, it was named by the Greek, who referred to it as such. Within Italy are two countries, the Vatican and San Marino. The Vatican city-state is named after Vatican Hill, the geographic location of the state, which itself comes from the name of an Etruscan settlement, a native tribe, Vatica or Vaticum, located in the general area the Romans called Agar Vaticanus, meaning Vatican territory, while San Marino's name comes from Saint Marinus, who was a stonemason from the island of Rab in today's Croatia. Marinus is said to be the founder of the state, creating a settlement in Monte Titano in 301 AD. Back to big countries, and moving north again, Austria, which is a Latinization of the German word for the country, Österreich, and it comes from the Old High German word Österreichi, which means Eastern Realm. Austria was initially a prefecture of Bavaria, created in 976. At the time, the Danube Basin of Austria was the easternmost extent of Bavaria, which perhaps justifies the eastern meaning of the word. Next, Czechia. Throughout its existence, Czechia has had different names, referring to its region.
Czech Republic, Czechia.
The original English name for it is Bohemia and derives from the Latin Boioaemum, which means home of the Boi, a Gallic tribe. The current English name of Czechia comes from the actual Czech word for that area. The country has been traditionally divided into three areas: Bohemia, Moravia, and Czech Silesia. Moving to its former country partner, Slovakia. Slovakia's name means, in theory, the land of the Slavs, Slovensko in the native language. The origin of Slav itself is seemingly unknown. Back north, Poland. The origin of the name Poland derives from the West Slavic tribe of the Polani, who inhabited the region in the mid-6th century. The origin of the name Polani itself derives from the Proto-Slavic word Pol, meaning field. The Polish name for Poland is Polska, which I believe shares the same origin. Onwards to the Nordic countries, starting with Denmark, dividing it into two parts, Den or Dan plus Mark. It's debatable what the origin of each part is. Dan might refer to the Dani, a local tribe, or Tidan, a legendary early king of the Danes, although most scholars point to it coming from a word meaning flat land, while Mark would mean woodland or borderland, in the sense of marshes, the name of many border regions in medieval times, perhaps referencing the border forests of Schleswig.
Okay.
Norway has two official names, because apparently they
Really?
have two official writing systems. I had no idea about this. They
exactly.
are Norg and Noreg. In English, the name Norway comes from the old word meaning northern way, or way leading into the north. And it seems that the native origin is
that one right here, Norway. That is really the way leading to the north. That Norway, that's the way to the north. Norway. That one is good. This one is good.
Same. Sweden's name oddly apparently comes from the Dutch language. As early as 1287, references are found in Middle Dutch, referring to a land van Sveden, which meant land of the Swedes, while the native Swedish name Sveriges is a compound of the words Svea and Rik, literally meaning realm of the Swedes. The origin of Swedes itself is generally agreed to come from an ancient word similar to Sve, meaning one's own, referring to one's own tribe. When I say ancient words similar to, it's because a lot of these ancient words are modern reconstructions of what we think they used, and trying to represent it with our modern letters. Finland in English apparently is related to the tribe of the Finns, which lived in the area, so it was literally land of the
Finns. I figured it was gonna be lands of the Finns, because why the hell not?
Finns. In Finnish, though, the country is named Suomi, and that word's origin is uncertain, although some people say it shares a common origin with the name of the Sami, a group of native people in Lapland, whose source could be the ancient...
I live in Lapland, what the hell, man? Yes, Sami people, okay, say, man.
Baltic word, Zeme, meaning lowland. Moving on to the three Baltic nations, Estonia's name comes from an ancient people, the Aiesti, which Roman historian Tacitus wrote lived in the area around the year 98 AD, while early Scandinavian writings refer to the area as Iceland, linked to the Old Norse word Aust, meaning the east, since they are located east of Scandinavia. Latvia's origin is similar. Latvia seems to come from the name of the ancient Latgalians, another regional tribe, while Lithuania or Lietuva
Hold on, Lithuania, we gonna stop with you right there, man. Yeah, this was a crazy... This was a crazy video. Lots of things, you know, I expected some of them. You know, Iceland, Finland, straight up smack bang, you know, it's just what was expected, right? But a lot of these were really interesting. I've said this since the beginning of the video. The Portugal was unique. The Spain was also unique. The Spain was a little bit weird with the rabbit, but it was indeed still unique, right? But yeah, you guys can let me know what country you guys are repping, and you guys can let me know in the comment section, you know, if the name issued or described in this video according to your country, if it is valid based on the history that you would probably know about your own country, I'd hope. But yeah, for now we're gonna be up out of here. You know, next time we'll check out the other countries. You see, that's half of Europe right there, because we got a big boy over there and over to the east side. So we already know that one is taking up a lot of space. So video is almost over, but yeah, I'll catch you guys in another part 2. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm out of here. Peace.